ABC 10 News has a new poll on California's race for governor, and right now, Democrat Tom Steyer is leading a crowded field. Most of the polling was done before the Swalwell allegations gained widespread attention. The Survey USA poll done in partnership with the San Diego Union Tribune shows Steyer at 21%. Republican Steve Hilton is close behind at 18%. Swalwell, Democrat Katie Porter, and Republican Chad Bianco are all clustered in third. We also took a look at support in the county. 23% are undecided. Hilton leads at 20%, followed by Steyer and Swalwell. And on the big picture question, do California voters want the next governor to work with President Trump or push back? A majority, 58%, say stand up to him. Just 34% say work with him. Joining us now to discuss the results of our poll is UCSD political science professor Thad Kousser. Thank you, Thad, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to dive into this new poll.
Yeah, a lot to unpack. Let's focus on the statewide poll for a minute. 18% say they're still undecided on the race for governor. What do you think will influence their vote?
Yeah, this is less than 2 months before the primary and just weeks away from when we're first going to get those mail ballots in our boxes. And 1 in 5 Californians is still really looking around and trying to figure out who they want to support in this key governor's race in the nation's largest state. I think there's a lot that's up for grabs, as we'll talk about with this race. There's a lot that's changing very quickly, but I think these voters are trying to find out who is the leading candidate, who has the best shot of winning, who are the folks who might be trailing far behind, so they can make sure that their votes count in choosing between one of the front runners, either in the Republican or the Democratic Party, where there are multiple candidates running.
And Thad, we're looking at those numbers right now. Eric Swalwell wasn't the leading candidate in this poll even before his controversy, but his supporters will scatter. Who do you think will benefit most?
They will. I think voters are potentially going to follow where the large groups that had endorsed Eric Swalwell before his fall from grace. So there were many unions and other left-leaning groups that had endorsed him. They're going to be looking for another candidate. There are also prominent elected officials who have all pulled their endorsements of Eric Swalwell. They'll be making endorsements. Voters could use those two as a guide to try to figure out who among this field of mostly progressive Democrats who believe many of the same things, all of whom have impressive credentials, where should they go? That's what voters who are backing Eric Swalwell, a Democrat, are going to be looking to do, trying to find the next Democrat who's got a good shot at winning this race and who fits their policies and priorities.
And let's flip it a little bit. There are several Democrats in this race that have some baggage or scandal that's come up in all of this, even if it's just a video exploding on someone in their party and not looking good on videotape. Does this leave a world where there's any way the Republican Steve Hilton may rise to the top of the poll here in a very blue state?
Well, I think the first thing that we want to say is what we've seen so far with candidates. So Katie Porter had a video in which she got mad at a staff member. That is nothing like what Eric Swalwell did, and I think in some ways the horrific things that he's accused of put that into perspective, and they give these other candidates like Katie Porter, who's faced that, like Tom Steyer, who's faced charges about what his venture capital fund invested in. It gives them another chance to make a pitch to those 9 or 10% of Swalwell voters to make a pitch for their positions among the Democrats. But among Republicans, you do see Steve Hilton pulling away now from Chad Bianco and potentially really helped by the strong endorsement that he got from President Trump, whose endorsement still carries a lot of weight with Republican voters in the Golden State. That has elevated him to becoming the most likely candidate to make it into the top 2 on the Republican side. He's now pulling about at 18%, about twice what Chad Bianco is doing. If he continues to get that momentum, he'll move through to November. but it would be very, very hard for him to beat a Democrat in a state that still votes almost in every election 60-40 for Democrats against Republicans. And this poll also shows that voters want the next governor to fight for climate change, to protect immigrants, and to stand up against Donald Trump. That's a recipe for one of the Democratic candidates rather than the positions that Steve Hilton or Chad Bianco are taking on the Republican side right now.
And you mentioned, so the top of the poll on the Democratic side, Steyer, a billionaire, running as a progressive, polling the best among younger voters as well. Will this get him to the governor's mansion, or do you see him facing obstacles as this race continues?
Tom Steyer right now looks like the odds-on favorite, right? This survey that's one of his strongest showings at the statewide level at 21%, kind of breaking free from the Democratic pack. That's the strongest evidence yet that the $89 million that he spent advertising about who he is and what he believes in are really beginning to have an effect and separating him from the rest of the field. If he separates, if he gets through to the top two against a Republican, he's almost assured victory and really the incredible, overwhelming favorite going into November. But we've still got a month and a half left to go. He's got strong, experienced candidates who've served in Congress, in the presidential cabinet, in statewide office as the LA mayor. Those candidates, Antonio Villaraigosa, Javier Becerra, Katie Porter, Matt Mahan, the mayor of San Jose, they're all going to try to use this opening, this shakeup of this race that's come from Eric Swalwell's fall from grace. They're going to try to use it to make their pitch and stop Tom Steyer from moving forward into an almost inevitable candidacy if he makes it through the primary.
And I know you've seen the results of the poll. Are there any big takeaways that you have?
I think this is the first sign that the race is sort of shaping up into one Democrat and one Republican who stand out from the rest. In this poll, getting nearly twice as much support as the others. But remember that leading vote getter, as you started off with, almost is undecided, right? There are all these Californians who are just beginning to focus on this race while there's so much else going on in the world and in national politics. As they start to decide if they focus on one of those two leading candidates, Tom Steyer or Steve Hilton, that will send us with a clear field through the primary and a very clear path in November. But there's a lot of time yet to go, a lot of strong and experienced candidates who have really different visions for the future of California. And at the end, on June 2nd, it's going to be up to voters.
All right. Thad Kousser, UCSD science professor, political science professor, thank you so much for trying to explain this poll. There'll be a lot more coming in the weeks ahead, and we appreciate your time. We hope to talk to you again.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.